Hello dear friends. Cunning is discredited as a skill because it has been used for evil, but it is necessary for survival in a world of rogues. Open in peace. Innocent cunning. Symbolic meaning. Esoteric Christianity. The way of the cunning man. The path of the right hand. The path of the left hand. There is a different path for every being, but all paths meet in infinity. Let's start. In quotes, Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore crafty as serpents and innocent as doves. But beware of men, for they will deliver you up to the courts and scourge you in their synagogues. And you will even be brought before governors and kings for my sake, as a testimony to them and to the Gentiles. And you will be hated for all men for my name's sake. But he who endures to the end, the same shall be saved. Matthew 10:16-28. I have pondered this gospel passage for years, and I have tried to figure out what kind of guilt it refers to. Innocence is candor and simplicity. It is a state of soul cleansed of guilt and an exemption from guilt in wrongdoing. Innocence is a state of spiritual grace. Synonyms for cunning are shrewdness, perfidy, trickery, craft, steal, cunning, trickery, etc. The opposite would be nobility, candor, and naivety, but the naivety comes at a high price in this world of sharks. Cunning is the quality of cunning, crafty or shrewdness, or the device or means employed skillfully and craftily for the accomplishment of some intent. Cunning means sharp, skillful, to devise, to deceive or to avoid deception or to achieve any end cunningly. The advisable thing is not to deceive but to avoid deception. Shrewd is someone prudent who foresees and thinks. Jesus says that his disciples will face dangerous and hostile situations, and he gives them advice on how to act. The first part of the phrase, be shrewd as serpents, refers to the disciples being clever and cautious in the way they act to avoid being trapped by those who wish to harm them. The second part, and innocent as doves, refers to the fact that despite their cunning, the disciples must maintain their integrity and moral purity, and must not harm anyone. In short, Jesus' phrase means that his disciples should be wise and cautious in the way they act, but at the same time they should maintain their moral integrity. Being without being. The expression to be in the world but not of the world refers to the possibility of living in the material world while maintaining a certain distance or detachment that allows for a more authentic and deeper life. It is possible to be present and participate in the material world, interacting with the people and things that make it up, without being absorbed or negatively influenced by the prevailing values and beliefs of society. It also means the need to live an authentic and deep spiritual life, where one seeks connection with the divine or the transcendent, but without being carried away by the preoccupations and distractions of the material world. The expression refers to the idea that people can live in the world, but without becoming overly attached to material or emotional things, maintaining a certain distance and detachment that allows them to have a broader and more balanced perspective on life. The way of the cunning man. The way of the cunning man is a concept that was introduced by George Ivanovich Gurdjieff, a prominent spiritual teacher and philosopher of the 20th century. According to Gurdjieff, the way of the willing man is a holistic approach to personal and spiritual development that involves the integration of mind, body, and spirit. The way of the astute man focuses on the idea that most people live their lives mechanically, without true awareness of themselves and their surroundings. For Gurdjieff, the key to overcoming this dream state is to learn to observe and understand one's own mind and patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving. The way of the astute man involves a series of practices and teachings designed to help people awaken from their dream state and achieve greater awareness and presence in the present moment. This practice may include meditation, mindfulness, self-reflection, the practice of compassion, and service to others. In short, Gurdjieff's way of the willing man is a spiritual approach that seeks to help human beings achieve greater awareness and presence in the present moment, to overcome the feeling of being asleep and to live more consciously and fully. Fourth way. The fourth way is a philosophical doctrine introduced in the West by Gurdjieff and Ouspensky. It is based on the belief that the human being needs a procedure or system for awakening through self-knowledge, mindfulness, and awareness of the environment, and above all, self-remembering. There is a type of path for each type of human being, and the meaning is to find the forgotten part of oneself. In short, to awaken from the dream, from the misnamed waking consciousness in which one is immersed, which is just another mode of dreaming. Gurdjieff held that there are three main paths to the development of the latent powers of the human being: the way of the fakir, the way of the monk, and the way of the yogi, each of which requires the candidate to leave the world in order to find the luminous path. Gurdjieff asserts that all the other artificial paths that exist in the West lead nowhere, and were it not for the existence of a fourth way, the people of the West wouldn't have the slightest opportunity for inner development. The schools of the fourth way offer the ordinary human being the opportunity for inner physical, intellectual, and emotional development in the very environment in which they live. Gurdjieff refused to reveal the origin of his knowledge of the fourth way. Many suggest that it comes from Esoteric Christianity, Sufism, and Tibetan Buddhism. Esoteric Christianity. Esoteric Christianity is a stream of Christianity that focuses on the study and practice of the deeper spiritual aspects of the tradition and on the symbolic and mystical interpretation of Christian sacred texts. This stream is also known as Inner Christianity or Mystical Christianity. There are some Christian traditions that are called mystery religions and are related not to a specific form of religious worship, but to a tradition of self-knowledge of the human being as a spirit and as integral part of God. These traditions are also known as Esoteric Christianity and are the only Christian denominations that accept doctrines such as reincarnation and evolutionism. These traditions also advocate the idea that all living forms pass through the world as a way of developing, beginning in inconsistency and ending in higher consciousness. The word of the Christ would then be valid for the present practice of human being and would consist in awakening the human being to love and altruism, forming in due course a universal brotherhood until humankind is ready to turn directly to God. Esoteric Christianity is based on the idea that there are deeper levels of meaning and understanding in religion that can only be discovered through contemplation, meditation, and spiritual practice. Rather than taking the Bible and other sacred texts lately, esoteric Christians seek to understand the symbolic and mystical meaning of the teachings. In esoteric Christianity, it is believed that divinity is found within every human being, and that it is possible to achieve union with God through spiritual practice and inner transformation. It stresses the importance of meditation, prayer, service to others, and the practice of compassion and mercy as ways of drawing closer to God. In short, esoteric Christianity is a stream of Christianity that focuses on the search for spiritual truth and the practice of inner transformation through the symbolic and mystical interpretation of Christian sacred texts and the practice of meditation, prayer, and service to others. Gnosis. Gnosis is a term that refers to profound and esoteric knowledge about the ultimate reality, which goes beyond what we can be known through empirical experience or conventional reason. The term comes from the Greek gnosis, which means knowledge. Gnosis, or jnana in Sanskrit, has been associated with various philosophical and religious currents throughout history, including Christian Gnosticism, Neoplatonism, Sufism, and some currents of Buddhism and Hinduism. It involves a direct personal experience of knowledge, achieved through contemplation, meditation, spiritual practice, and enlightenment. In Christian Gnosticism, Gnosis is believed to be a profound knowledge of the divine nature, which can be attained through contemplation and the divine revelation that is essential to attain salvation and union with God. Gnosis is characterized by its emphasis on personal and direct experience of a deep and essential knowledge of the ultimate reality, as opposed to a belief in the authority of dogmas and established teachings. Path of knowledge. Jnana Yoga is one of the main branches of yoga and focuses on the path of knowledge and wisdom. It consists of the search for and deep understanding of the ultimate truth or supreme reality called Brahman through knowledge and discrimination. It involves the realization of the true nature of the self and the dissolution of the ego, to come to the realization that all is one and that the true nature of all being is divinity. To achieve this state, Jnana Yoga proposes techniques such as meditation, study of sacred scriptures, self-analysis, and deep reflection. In Jnana Yoga, knowledge is considered to be the key of freedom for suffering and ignorance, and understanding the true nature of reality is the key to attaining liberation or moksha. This understanding refers not only to intellectual knowledge, but also to experiential and direct knowledge of truth. In short, the path of Jnana Yoga is the search for truth through knowledge and discrimination, to attain liberation from suffering and ignorance, and an understanding of the true nature of reality. These other classical paths of yoga are as follows. First, Raja Yoga, which includes various meditation techniques. Bhakti Yoga, or devotion to the divine beyond blind faith. Karma Yoga, or the path of altruistic action through vocation. Right hand. The right hand path is a category of spiritual practices characterized by a focus on personal development and the pursuit of enlightenment through more conventional means such as prayer, fasting, silence, study of sacred texts, observance of rituals, and adherence to ethical and moral standards. This category is often used in opposition to the left-hand path, which focuses on the exploration of the occult, the taboo, the forbidden, and the use of magical or ritualistic practices to achieve personal or even selfish goals. In general, the right-hand path is associated with philosophical traditions that emphasize devotion, ego renunciation, and humility, and seek union with the divine. For example, Hinduism and Buddhism are often considered right-hand paths, as they focus on liberation from the cycle of birth and death, the attainment of enlightenment, and the practice of morality and virtue. Left hand. The term left-hand path is commonly used in spirituality and philosophy to refer to a series of practices and beliefs that focus on individuality and personal freedom, as opposed to the right-hand path, which focuses on union with the divine and surrender of the ego. In the context of magic and spirituality, the left-hand path is seen as a form of self-discovery through a series of magical practices that are often considered taboo by society, but it does not imply immoral or illegal practices, but rather a focus on individuality and personal freedom, and a refusal to conform to the norms and expectations imposed by society. Sanchez Dragó's left-hand path is a code of conduct opposed to the discourse of modernity. The result is an invitation to ethics, to wisdom, and therefore to happiness. According to the author, in Eastern traditions, left-hand paths, as opposed to right-hand paths, which are orthodox and reserved for ordinary mortals, are called all the heterodox Gnosticisms and paths of perfection, which propose the transgression of the discourse of dominant values in the face of integration into that narrative. It is the path of Dionysus, Shiva, and Tantra, strictly reserved for heroes, warriors, rebels, and heretics. The left-hand paths and the right-hand paths pursue fusion with the absolute, each in its own way, and all come together in the infinite. Free thinkers. It's important to note that freedom of thought and expression are fundamental and necessary rights for the development of a free and democratic society. Free thinkers, it is to say those who engage in free thought and question established norms and beliefs, are frowned upon in all societies. In some cultures or contexts, they may be viewed with suspicion or rejection for various reasons. By questioning traditional norms and beliefs, free thinkers may be perceived as threats to social and cultural stability. They may be considered subversive and may be seen as dissidents who threaten the status quo, which can generate fear in the powers that be. Free thinkers may be frowned upon in some societies because they challenge established beliefs and are considered dangerous. The term anti-system is used to describe a person or group that opposes or rejects the values, principles, or structures of the established system in a society. In general, it refers to those who see the system as a source of injustice, inequality, and oppression, and seek to resist or even overthrow it. Anti-systemists can have different motivations and approaches, and may be political activists, fringe or countercultural groups, among others. How to protect yourself? Question and be critical of the government and authorities when necessary. Do not take everything that is said in the media as the absolute truth. It is important to be aware of the legal and constitutional rights that protect citizens from state interference in their lives, and to defend them if they are threatened. Stay informed about the laws to avoid possible illegalities. Do not engage in illegal activities that may attract attention. Use security measures to protect your personal information, such as strong passwords. Restrictions on freedom of expression have been observed in some countries. Democracy is at risk due to the erosion of libertarian values, the rise of authoritarianism, and political polarization. In some countries, threats to democracy are being observed, such as the erosion of democratic institutions, the restriction of press freedom and judicial independence, the rise of populism and political polarization, corruption, and the awakening of the rule of law. Single thinking refers to a situation in which there is a single perspective of dominant ideology in a given field, which limits discussion and debate on different points of view. This can have a negative impact on plurality and pluralism, which can limit people's ability to make informed decisions and participate in a democratic society. Some governments have introduced laws that restrict freedom of expression online, such as censorship of social media content and criminalization of opinion. In addition, there are cases of journalists, activists, and human rights defenders who have been detained or persecuted for critical opinions. It is important to continue to promote and protect freedom of expression as a fundamental right and an essential tool for the exercise of democracy and citizen participation. Reset news. Fed confirms the recession and the crisis event is expected. You are witnessing the destruction of the old God, and the old God is fighting back with everything it has. It's all about exposing the dark plan to awaken the people, according to the X22 report. Food prices are rising and inflation is heating up. The French are rejecting it and protesting continuously. Biden appoints Lady Gaga to the Arts Advisory Committee. Chile enacts the 40-hour work law. Homeless people take shelter at Buenos Aires Metropolitan Airport. The Davos Forum intends to use individual carbon footprint trackers to restrict where you can travel, how you can travel, what you can eat, and much more. The term deep state has been used in recent years to describe a network of powerful elites and officials who operate in secret to maintain their control over politics and society. These elites use their influence in government, the media, and other institutions to promote their interests and maintain their power to the detriment of the population. According to Dalbon, the White Hats have worked intensively since JFK to regain control of we the people, and are present and former generals as they form the fourth branch of government when the current one goes wrong. The Earth Alliance is a group that proposes a large-scale global transformation that addresses economic and social challenges through the implementation of economic policies based on social justice. The coalition has proposed several initiatives to transform the global financial system, including the creation of new sustainable currencies and the reduction of financial speculation. Its global financial restart or reset model focuses on the creation of a new international monetary system based on the gold standard and social justice. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.